Susan Boyle's name became synonymous with overnight success, a fairy tale come to life. After her unforgettable audition on Britain's Got Talent, the world watched as this unassuming woman transformed into a global phenomenon. She wasn't initially the favorite, but the moment she began to sing, everything changed. Victories followed on America's Got Talent, The Champions, and her wealth soared past an estimated $45 million. Then, just as suddenly as she'd risen, Susan Boyle seemed to step back from the spotlight, leaving many to wonder what happened to this extraordinary singer. Join us as we delve into the untold chapters of her story, exploring the journey of Susan Boyle, a living testament to the adage that you truly can't judge a book by its cover. Born on April 1, 1961, in Blackburn, West Lothian, Scotland, Susan's early life was rooted in humble beginnings. Her father, Patrick Boyle, was a miner and a singer, while her mother, Bridget, worked as a shorthand typist. Growing up in a council house, the youngest of 10 children, with 4 elder brothers and 6 elder sisters, Susan's childhood wasn't always easy. School was a challenging environment where she often felt out of place and rejected. Amidst these struggles, music became her sanctuary. She found solace and joy as a choir member in her local parish church and actively participated in local talent shows, often achieving success. Her mother encouraged her to audition for Britain's Got Talent, but Susan initially hesitated, believing she was too old. The show seemed like something to watch, not participate in, especially when it began in 2004. However, after her mother's passing in 2007, Susan's perspective shifted. In 2008, she finally decided to audition. Having been her mother's caregiver until her death, Susan had largely stayed out of the public eye, making her audition on Britain's Got Talent in Glasgow her first major public performance. The moment Susan Boyle stepped onto the Britain's Got Talent stage, something remarkable happened. Her unassuming appearance initially led to lowered expectations, but then she sang. Her powerful rendition of I Dreamed a Dream captivated not just the judges, but the entire world. The chorus brought the audience to their feet in a standing ovation. Amanda Holden famously described it as the biggest wake-up call ever, a moment that challenged preconceived notions and celebrated raw talent. Suddenly, Susan Boyle became a global sensation. Celebrities like Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher championed her on social media. Her audition video went viral, amassing millions of views on YouTube, becoming one of the most watched videos on the platform. Although she finished second in the competition and faced some early challenges adjusting to the sudden fame, Susan's journey as a professional artist had just begun. She joined fellow contestants on tour and started working on her debut album. Susan's story became an inspiration, proving that dreams can materialize at any age. Her debut album, aptly titled I Dreamed a Dream, was released in November 2009 and shattered sales records. Selling over 2 million copies worldwide in its first week, it remains the fastest-selling debut album by a female artist ever. But the path to this incredible success was far from smooth. From the very beginning, Susan's life was marked by challenges. Born when her mother was 47, she was the youngest of many children in a family with limited resources. Her birth was traumatic, and Susan was briefly deprived of oxygen, which was later attributed to learning disabilities, a diagnosis she lived with for years. School was a harsh experience filled with bullying from both peers and teachers. In a poignant interview, Susan described the difficulty of keeping up in a system that prioritized speed and quick learning. She felt left behind, labeled a slow learner. Teachers cruelly punished her with corporal punishment when she struggled academically. Peers nicknamed her Susie Simple and subjected her to constant insults, making school a deeply painful experience. This bullying and harsh treatment stunted her self-confidence and created further obstacles in her academic journey. Stepping onto the Britain's Got Talent stage was, in a way, Susan's quiet act of defiance, proving her tormentors wrong, showing them she was capable of achieving greatness despite their cruelty. Her performance became a form of sweet revenge, and she even wrote and performed a song on her first album dedicated to her bullies, reminding them of her success despite their heartlessness. However, the struggles weren't limited to her school years. In 2011, Susan revealed another difficult aspect of her childhood. Beyond the learning disorder, she also had epilepsy. While doctors had correctly diagnosed the condition, those around her, parents and teachers, didn't know how to properly manage it. Epilepsy, while manageable today, was often misunderstood and stigmatized. Interestingly, it's a condition shared by other famous musicians like Sir Elton John, Neil Young, and Lil Wayne. But in Susan's case, the mismanaged epilepsy led to further hardship. She recalled experiencing seizures regularly at school, which only fueled the bullying. Fainting during lessons, she would wake up to peers jeering and laughing. At home, the situation wasn't much better. Her parents, unsure how to cope, would sometimes overprotect her and at other times leave her to fend for herself when episodes became too challenging. Asking for help was often met with her father calling her touchy. The prevailing assumption was that her epilepsy was linked to her learning disabilities, which wasn't accurate, and as a result, the condition went largely untreated. Unsurprisingly, Susan left school with few qualifications. Finding stable employment proved difficult due to her lack of qualifications and undiagnosed learning disability. She applied for numerous jobs but faced constant rejection or failed after initial interviews. Eventually, she found work as a trainee cook at West Lothian College, but this lasted only 6 months. For years, she moved from one government training program to another, lacking a stable job or sufficient income. Despite these hardships, she found joy and purpose performing at local venues, which remained the extent of her musical career until a tragic loss propelled her to pursue a dream she had long suppressed. Despite a challenging family life and personal struggles, Susan Boyle possessed a remarkable capacity for forgiveness and selflessness. She grew up without much and famously declared during her Britain's Got Talent audition, "Never been married, never been kissed," reflecting a life focused on other priorities. Her modesty and sense of duty shaped significant life decisions. After her father's passing, her siblings eventually moved out of their 4-bedroom council house, leaving their aging and frail mother behind. It was Susan who stayed, along with her 10-year-old cat, Pebbles. Even after achieving international fame and earning millions, Susan chose to remain in her childhood home, embracing the simplicity of her life. A neighbor recounted that after her mother, Bridget Boyle, passed away, Susan remained withdrawn for days, not answering the door or phone, deeply grieving the loss. Susan is a devout Roman Catholic, actively involved in her church, singing in the choir, and volunteering by visiting elderly members of her congregation in their homes. She described her life before stardom as mundane and routine, a stark contrast to the global fame that awaited her. In 2012, during an appearance on The Oprah Winfrey Show, and later in a BBC interview in December 2013, Susan publicly shared her diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome, adding another layer of understanding to her life story, alongside her epilepsy. In a lighter moment, when asked about internet dating in November 2012, she joked about being too scared, imagining a disastrous date ending with her limbs scattered around various Blackburn dustbins. In July 2013, Susan endorsed the Better Together campaign to keep Scotland within the United Kingdom during the 2014 independence referendum, stating, "I am a proud patriotic Scot, passionate about my heritage and country, but I am not a nationalist." She added, "We have retained our proud identity while being a part of Britain." Susan is a non-drinker and was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in June 2013. In November 2014, media reports surfaced about a boyfriend described as her first and close to her age, marking a rare glimpse into her personal life. More recently, in 2022, Susan suffered a minor stroke, which she shared publicly on June 4, 2023, after a Britain's Got Talent performance. What truly motivates Susan Boyle to remain in her childhood home to this day? On Britain's Got Talent, despite her kind face, Susan's appearance was initially dismissed by some, lacking the typical glamour associated with performers. But her voice silenced all doubts. The stark contrast between the years of bullying and the overwhelming standing ovation she received before, during, and after her audition resonated deeply with audiences worldwide. Susan's audition went viral within a week, and clips of her performances, including a 1999 rendition of Cry Me a River, also gained immense popularity. Throughout the competition, Susan faced immense pressure, sickness, and fatigue. Yet she delivered a powerful final performance, ultimately finishing second to the dance group Diversity. However, in many ways, she had already won a far more significant battle, the battle for self-acceptance and recognition. Her journey highlighted the importance of never giving up on dreams, regardless of age or background. I Dreamed a Dream, her first album, became a phenomenal success upon its release in November 2009. It became one of the fastest-selling debut albums by a female artist, selling over 2 million copies globally in its first week and breaking UK sales records. It also became the most pre-ordered album in Amazon's history. Its success was undeniable, claiming its place as the world's biggest-selling record in its release year, with over 9 million copies sold. Billboard News confirmed these staggering first-week sales for a debut female artist, as recorded by SoundScan since 1991. In the wake of this unprecedented success, Susan Boyle earned Guinness World Records for fastest-selling debut album by a female artist, highest first-week sales for a debut album, and oldest person to reach #1 with a debut album in the UK. Her powerful voice and inspiring story resonated globally, particularly in America, where she was warmly received on America's Got Talent. The days of being underestimated were over. Susan embraced her success, no longer a spectator in her own life, but a main character engaging with the world. Following her debut album, she released The Gift in 2010, Someone to Watch Over Me in 2011, and after a brief hiatus, a festive album, Standing Ovation, The Greatest Songs from the Stage in 2012. 2 years later, she released Hope, followed by A Wonderful World in 2016. After years of consistent musical output, Susan took an indefinite break due to age and health concerns. Many speculated her music career was over, but in 2019, Susan surprised fans, celebrating a decade in the industry with an album titled 10, encapsulating the best of her work. Once again, she defied expectations, leaving her mark on the music industry. Yet, alongside her triumphs, a sense of sadness lingered. Loyal fans couldn't help but notice that her Asperger's diagnosis, among other challenges, had profoundly changed her. Despite having so much to offer, she now prefers a quiet life away from the glitz and glamour of fame. Beneath the immense success, there's a hint of tragedy, a sense of battles fought and scars carried. Reflecting on her work, Susan said, "I had a lot of fun making the album, and I hope that the public likes it as much as I enjoyed it." If you thought Susan Boyle's success story was surprising, prepare yourself, because we are about to reveal heartbreaking revelations that will reshape everything you thought you knew about her journey. Could these revelations change how you view Susan's story? Let's find out. Britain's Got Talent propelled Susan Boyle to the pinnacle of global recognition, but the intense and rigorous training regime took its toll. While comfortable with singing, the sudden fame was overwhelming. Following her appearance on the show, she struggled to cope with the relentless demands of interviews, paparazzi, and harsh criticism. Despite her widespread popularity, she didn't win the competition, and immediately after the finale, she was hospitalized. The intense media scrutiny over 5 weeks had exhausted her, leaving her physically and emotionally frail. It was later revealed that Susan had suffered a breakdown. Despite her extraordinary talent, not securing enough public votes reportedly led her to lash out at the show's manager. Rumors from the set circulated, alleging that Susan threw water at a staff member, expressing her hatred for the show. That night, staff at her London residence called the police due to her erratic behavior. Hours later, Susan was admitted to a mental health care facility. News of her breakdown spread rapidly, revealing concerns that the producers of Britain's Got Talent had overlooked Susan's fragile mental and physical health in the lead-up to the final. The UK media regulator Ofcom considered launching an inquiry into the show, questioning whether ratings were prioritized over participant well-being, but the idea was eventually dropped. This experience taught Susan the importance of a more balanced music schedule. But this proved challenging with a demanding touring schedule ahead. Despite these pressures, she continued to perform for her fans and create music. Another significant setback occurred in 2013 when Susan finally received an accurate diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome. Interestingly, it wasn't brain damage, but a misdiagnosis from her youth. The diagnosis, while initially heartbreaking, was also a relief. For years, Susan had believed a birth complication had caused permanent damage, shaping her self-perception as unlucky in her academic years. The Asperger's diagnosis allowed her to understand herself better and receive appropriate support for the first time. In an interview with The Guardian, Susan revealed that being labeled brain damaged always felt cruel and unfair. Deep down, she knew she was like everyone else, just with a different way of processing things. She hoped her diagnosis would encourage greater understanding and kindness towards neurodivergent individuals. "I think people will treat me better because they will have a much greater understanding of who I am and why I do what I do," she stated. Following these courageous disclosures, Susan received an outpouring of support from fans and critics alike who admired her authenticity and honesty about her life experiences, qualities often avoided by celebrities. As if these challenges weren't enough, in the same year, Susan had to give up her beloved chocolate, a significant personal sacrifice, after being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. While the diagnosis was timely, it meant adjusting to a new lifestyle while simultaneously navigating her Asperger's diagnosis. Later, when the pandemic struck, she had to take extra precautions to protect herself from COVID-19, causing further disruption to her musical career. For at least 2.5 years, she remained at home, limiting interactions with those who could have helped her record new music. Susan's life wasn't solely defined by public support and album success. Personal struggles continued. In 2010, she purchased a new house with her earnings, but a group of disruptive individuals made her life miserable, throwing rocks, attempting to break in, and setting fire to paper at her property. Eventually, she returned to her childhood home and gave the new house to her niece. She was saddened by these experiences, but her sister's illness led to a brief hiatus before her 2015 comeback. Her sister Bridie passed away from cancer at the age of 73. As Bridie was very close to Susan, her death caused significant emotional distress. Additionally, Susan took on the responsibility of caring for Bridie's daughter. Throughout Susan's explosive rise to fame, Bridie had been a constant source of support, standing by her side when the media scrutinized her appearance and remaining grounded amidst the whirlwind of success. Bridie was Susan's anchor during a difficult feud with their brother, Jerry. Susan's newfound wealth led to complications within her family. The issue arose when Susan decided to help Jerry by giving him £75,000 to save his failing business. Other siblings took issue with this, and Susan claimed Jerry had threatened suicide if she didn't provide the money. This led to a rift, and Jerry publicly accused Susan of lying. However, in 2016, Susan's public breakdown at Heathrow Airport inadvertently reunited the siblings, offering a somewhat heartwarming resolution to their feud. Unfortunately, Susan Boyle's health issues have persisted. In May 2022, news emerged that she had suffered a minor stroke, making music production even more challenging. She shared this news after a moving performance on the Britain's Got Talent stage, where she sang with the West End cast of Les Miserables, a deeply significant event for her. Susan expressed the importance of returning to the stage after her stroke, saying, "Last April I suffered a minor stroke, and I thought it would be crazy to be back on stage, but I've done it." That night, she shared on Instagram that she had undergone extensive speech therapy to perform her beloved song, "I Dreamed a Dream." Her hard work paid off, and today she continues to pursue her musical career despite ongoing health challenges. Despite the stroke delaying her plans for new music, the sensational Susan Boyle still performs for her fans whenever she has the strength and desire. Though she largely remains out of the public eye, Susan has recently cited not having children as one of her biggest regrets. Yet she also maintains a secret personal life, reportedly involving an American gentleman whose identity remains unknown to the media. In 2016, she mentioned casually chatting with an American doctor, though it wasn't serious at the time. Since then, reports suggest Susan is in a happy, stable relationship, although she has no plans to publicly disclose her partner or get married. Her boyfriend apparently accompanies her on special occasions like her birthday, but beyond that, her love life remains private. Even before her major comeback performance, fans eagerly anticipate new music from Susan Boyle. Susan Boyle remains a gift that keeps on giving, and while we wait patiently for her next musical venture, we are left to reflect on the extraordinary journey of a woman who defied expectations, overcame adversity, and touched the hearts of millions worldwide.